Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in their drive-through location in North Syracuse. Today we have a very special spotlight, and it's going to weigh heavily on what we're thankful for and positivity. So if you stumbled upon this video and you want to hear about thanks and positive and some good things in the internet world, then welcome to the show. Andrea Smith is here with me, and we are both very happy to be here with you picture in picture. She has worked in so many different places of this world as a marketing manager in fitness for over 15 years and has a wonderful connection to trying to help people be better as she works to be better herself. And I know that world because I live in that world myself. So with that being said, Andrea, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm definitely glad to be back. It's fun to chat with you for sure, especially about things that I like to talk about on the internet every day.
So let's start with that. Let's start with what we're thankful for. Thanksgiving just happened this past week. We're here in this week following, and people that are truly thankful know that you're not thankful just once a year. So what are you thankful for?
Well, I'm thankful my parents are still alive. I think that we're all getting to like ages where that can not be the case for everybody. So, and I have a lot of friends who don't have that luxury. And I, every, year spent that way, I'm just grateful that my parents are still alive and healthy and with us. And I'd say, I did a post about Thanksgiving actually. And I'm not one of those people that's like sappy, like, oh, I'm so grateful for, having a husband or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't believe in that kind of, I don't believe in that behavior. But I will tell you, I am grateful for my children. Both my children are IVF kids. And I can remember not so long ago, like 6 years ago, thinking to myself, all right, I'm being punished for something. I'm not going to be able to have children, all these things. And both my kids are IVF and they're perfectly healthy and in my opinion, adorable. So I always think about that, like, especially on a day like Thanksgiving, because, like you said, it's important to be grateful every day for your
Yeah.
life or for, your strength or to be able to push through something, whatever you're going through. But I do always like to call that out. Like, I am grateful to have these kids because I'm the first person on the internet to be, posting the silly, sarcastic parenting memes.
Yeah.
So it's important for me to remind people that I also am grateful they're here.
And like you said, you were in a place where you didn't know if you're going to be able to have children.
Yeah,
And, a few years ago saying, am I being punished? What's going
yeah.
on? How did you get through that and deal with that? Because I've had, and more than I would like to say by, well, one is too many to me, but I've had a lot of friends that the first time they tried, they lost the baby. I mean,
Yeah.
numerous friends where that happened. And friends make me Uncle Dan, and my first ever niece or nephew, Carter, born down in Florida, was born as a preemie, and he made it through so much, but he didn't make it. He was a medical miracle for many, many weeks, but so I know that a lot of people have kind of sat back and said, why can't I have? Why did it take so long? Why am I in this situation with a preemie where, everything is heightened at all times? So how did you get through that?
We're lucky that these things are talked about a lot more. I think that they were a little bit more common. People just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
50 years ago, they didn't talk about these things. So I think that what I found is that, especially now, there's a lot of people who have fertility issues. And it comes up quite a bit when you're in conversation and somebody finds out I did IVF, like, oh, me too, or whatever. But I will say I was very lucky that I never had any miscarriages, knock on wood or anything like that. But I never had miscarriages. I just could not get pregnant. And there was really no medical reason for why. So, I think that, and we talked about faith last time we talked, I think that it's human nature to start to wonder, did I do something bad? Did I do something where, you know, somebody thinks that I wouldn't be a good parent or I don't deserve children. I think that it's very, like I said, I think it's human nature to start to wonder those types of things and lose a little faith around that time. And, I was at an age where everyone around me was pregnant or had children. So it started to feel a little repetitive of all these, downfalls. But I spent a lot of time crying, to be honest with you. I was just very concerned about where the future was for me. And then I just kind of took the bull by the horns, to be honest. I found a great fertility doctor, and luckily it was one that was not going to try 17 different things before just getting me the IVF. And I think one could also argue that maybe they were a little money hungry, because IVF is obviously the most expensive part of it. But at that point, I didn't care. I was really sick of giving me options. I wanted a plan, and I think we talked about this last time. Don't talk about it, be about it. Like, that's the way I kind of am anyway. So I literally just took the bull by the horns, and I started with all the shots and everything. And then the second pregnancy, and we had a healthy pregnancy. Everything was fine. I got pregnant the first time. I actually had twins the first time, but I did not deliver twins. They call it I think they call it like a vanishing twin or something, where you start off with twins and then one, I mean, I don't know how it works. I don't understand the science, but it sounds like one just like grows and the other one just doesn't, but it never gets to a point of like, they never even make it to like 12 weeks. It's not like a thing. It's just, if that makes sense. It's not like a thing, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
And then my second pregnancy, I honestly was not thinking about having another baby yet. I kind of was on the whole, I'm still in the weeds a little bit, a little one and done.
Yeah.
But we had embryos, and every 2 years you have to pay for storage. So they start calling and saying, hey, you're up for storage, whatever. And I was like, can we just test these embryos to find out if they're genetically okay? Because every time you freeze embryos, there's options that they won't be okay. And at that point, I was 38. So we tested them. I found out there was a girl in there, and I was like, I had a son already. And I was like, the next day, I'm telling you right now, I was at the pharmacy getting medication. It was like that fast. It was like, they're ready to go. I'm ready. Fine. Let's just do it. So, it's funny when you do IVF and you spend money on these kinds of things like that, and you don't get pregnant naturally, because so many people do get pregnant naturally, so it's hard for them to understand this struggle at all anyway. But you are concerned the whole pregnancy. You're very worried about, I feel like even more so than probably a normal, pregnancy person, because you're very concerned that, like, are you messing with fate?
Yeah.
Are you know what I mean? Like, and just the fact that like I knew that it was a girl. Was I messing with fate so much that, was I messing with science? Like, that's what, I started to feel that way. So I was nervous the whole pregnancy with her, but luckily healthy kids, which is good.
So what would you say is the best part of being a parent, and what is the most challenging? And you're talking to someone whose dog is my kid, but I don't have any human baby that's yelling at me in the middle of the night.
Lucky. It's funny, Dan, I was never the kind of person that thought about like, oh, I can't wait to be a mom. Like, it just wasn't. I was kind of chasing my career, doing my thing. And then it was like all of a sudden I turned 31 and I started thinking about those things, and it was like, then I just couldn't get pregnant. So I wanted it so bad. And I'll tell you, the best part about being a mom is probably just like the snuggles and stuff. Like when they tell you they love you out of the blue. I mean, it's just so cute. They do some of the cutest things. That part is great. But I'll be honest, and this is probably not going to go over well, I think, with listeners. I would have been a great candidate for like a nanny, to be rich with a nanny, because I don't have a lot of patience. So I would say that that's the hardest thing for me. Like, I'm like, listen, yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh my God. And I can remember being on maternity leave thinking, I can't wait to go back to work.
Yeah.
Like, I could not wait to get back around adults and doing adult things. And patience for sure is my hardest thing, because they do whatever they want to do. They don't care if you're in a bad mood. They're like, if you've had a bad day, guess what? You're going home to those kids and they are going to make it worse. They're going to push every button that day.
Well, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't talk about is the
I know.
reality, because you see, but again, as you and I both know, as people who utilize social media for our business, we know that a lot of people live on social media in a different world. And the sad thing about that, and we'll get to this later on in the show, but the sad thing about that is that the people that live on social media are spending so much time in a fake life, in a fake world, that they're not living.
Yeah.
So God forbid they die the next day. They've lived nothing. They've lived
No,
what they thought they
I
lived.
agree.
And I didn't know if I was ever gonna really fully truly know somebody who had faked it on social media. And then I was in a situation where I had been married before, years ago, and my ex went on and started putting all this stuff up, and I knew she didn't have money. But she was in mansions and she was wearing mink coats, and I'm like, "I know you took that from, like, some code exchange thing." Like, there was something going on, but I saw it and I said, "You know, I never thought that I could look at something and know, like, fully 1,000,000%, this is somebody living a totally different life." And you
Mhm.
feel bad, but, like, my life is my life. Like, I mean, you post it and I see the stuff, you'll be sitting there hanging out with your daughter, just posting
Yeah.
something. I will, I took a picture with my parents on Thanksgiving and we were just smiling, having a good time. I posted that. It's not like, how's my hair? Is this right? Is my shirt right? It's just, it's in the moment that you
Yeah.
do it. So you talk about family, and family is real, and it's all in the moment stuff. And I can imagine that when you're posting different things, or maybe you're trying to get something ready for a workout and a baby walks by the screen. You know what I mean? It's a very real thing for you, I'm
Well,
sure.
that's this morning. It's like I wanted to talk to you, but like I gotta get these kids out of this house because it will not go well. Like it will, they do not have any, the whole world revolves around them when they're here. But you know what? I agree with you. There's a lot of people who do not talk about this. And I joke with my best friend who's about to have a baby in 2 weeks, her first. And she's been around me and my kids, and she says all the time, like she feels like she's prepared for what the reality of this is gonna be like because I've always been so real about it. Like, yes, I love my kids. Obviously, I love my kids. Like, you know what I mean? But am I going to sit on the internet every day and say, I am just so hashtag blessed? I'm not. I'm just not. Like, they drive me nuts, And I think if more people talked about that, there'd be a lot less fake on the internet. A
Yeah.
lot less fake.
Well, and I mean, that's the real thing. Is like, yes, you love them, and of
Right.
course you're there for them,
Right.
right? But sometimes you don't understand them. And what I realized being an uncle to, thanks to all my incredible friends that have made me Uncle Dan, to 13 total.
Wow.
And so, all these nieces and nephews, my oldest is 18, my niece is 18, and then the youngest, I think, nephew that I had, the youngest of them all, I think is 2. So I see this world, right? But
Yeah.
you realize when when a child at like 2 or 3 is talking to their parent and they're saying all this stuff, and I'm going, none of those are words. This is all gibberish. And then the parents like, "Oh no, they said that they want to watch Spider-Man and they would really like a hot dog, and later on they would like to take a nice nap." And I was like, "You got that from Dubagabum?" Like, I didn't get that. So,
Yeah.
but then you're around them enough, and then you start realizing a few hours, few days, few weeks, you start to understand them to the point where their parent hears them, you hear them, and you're at Wegmans and this child is talking not English. However, I know exactly what they need, when they needed it, how they needed it. And
Yeah.
then you start like living in that world where you get them. And I don't know, I find that that's a really cool part of it is when you can understand them, when originally you're like, this is not recognizable language. I think that's cool.
Well, I'm still stuck on the fact that you said some kid said to you they'd like to take a nice nap. To be honest with you, I like you had me at hello at that moment. I was like, "Real? What kid is that?" And I need to know. I would really love it if my kid would say that. I'd be like, "Yes, you should take a nice nap."
Well, my godson, awesome, awesome kid. So my niece and nephews all incredible. Noah, him and I have always been close, and we're like the same human being. And I always joke with my buddy Johnny, not his wife. I mean, she is, but I joke with him more because he has 4 children. I always tell him he's very fertile.
Yeah.
So Johnny has his 4 kids and a couple dogs. And of all the children, I'm close with them all, but Noah and I are like he could have been my son, and I don't think anybody would have questioned it because we have the same brain. So one night I was sitting in their family room, and he went to bed, and he had given me a hug, and and he walked out of the room. He told me he loved me, gave me a hug, left the room. came back a few minutes later, and he's just like a human. He's like a grown-up baby. And
Yeah.
so, and now he's like, I think he's 7, but he ran back into the room and he goes, "Ah, Uncle Dan, I forgot to give you a kiss." And he came up and he kissed my cheek, and then he went into his room, and I went outside, and I was going to get in my car, and I think it was cold outside that night. And I just hear this little voice go, "Uncle Dan?" And I looked up and I see a silhouette in his room, the lights on, and I see this little human. And I said, "Yeah, buddy." He said, "You have a nice night, okay?" I
Uh-huh.
said, "You too." I said, "I love you, buddy." He goes, "I love you too, Uncle Dan." And I got in the car and I started to get emotional. And I was like, yeah, God, if you never give me kids, you gave me my godson. So
Well, I mean, and sometimes that's just it. I mean, the impact you can have on so many kids. They do say the cutest things. They really do. It's My daughter got mad at my son because she said he ignored her the other day, and she looked over at me, and she's 2, and she's like, "That was rude." I'm like, "It was rude." I'm like, so far, these people have tuned in to listen about positivity, and all I've talked about is how annoying my kids are.
but see, I brought you back because I gave you
Thank
the
you.
cute story of my
Thank
godson.
you. Yeah.
See, if you say mean things, I'll say nice things, and we'll
Thank you. Yeah, I got to keep it real, though. I got to keep it real.
swing the pendulum. Listen, everybody knows that. My mom would tell you, and the thing is, my mom will say like the opposite, and I didn't agree with her. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you were such a great baby. You're such a good kid. You never caused me any issues." And I looked at her, I'm like, "Ma, there's no way I was that great. There's
They
no way."
they forget. They forget.
I remember when we were at church and there was the crying room, and I remember I remember that. I don't know how. I remember screaming in the crying room, thinking to myself, I wasn't a good kid that day. Like,
No.
you know,
Right. You got to
and there
get the
was
crying room.
and the thing about the crying room is that it didn't take the crying away. It just made it like a lower decibel. But if a kid cried loud enough, the whole church heard it. I mean, you were in this
Yeah.
wooden glass box, so it's kind of like walking up to an animal at a pet store, right? And if it hits the glass, you can hear it, and if it makes noises, you can hear it. So it's like you could hear it, but instead of like it was like, oh,
Well, and
it's like you can.
I would think that if one kid starts crying in the crying room, that all the kids would start crying in the crying room.
Ironically, sometimes yes, other times one kid out of his mind, other kids like this.
Well, because the other kid's probably looking at that kid thinking, okay, well, what's wrong with him? Like, how wasn't that bad, you know?
Like, why am I in this room
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why am
with
I in
this
this room with
crazy
clearly
kid?
crazy kid? Yeah.
So, funniest story you can tell, either about both of your children or one of your children. Funniest thing that's happened.
Oh God, that's a tough one. That is okay. I got one just came to mind. My son, we've been trying to get him involved in sports for about 2 years now, and it's at 4. I didn't know all this, but at 4, they're just really not ready. Now, some kids are, but majority of kids aren't. They're wanting to play dinosaurs instead of football or whatever.
Yeah.
And my husband's pretty athletic, so he's got him outside. He's trying to get him to play baseball, football, all the things, practicing with him. And, you know, I don't know what happened. He must have been over practicing him, I guess, at that point. But all of a sudden, Jackson just looks at his dad and he just screams, "Let me live my life!" Like as if because we don't want to play dinos.
Yeah.
We don't want to play with dinosaurs. We want you to pick up the football. Like we're not letting you live your life. So
Yeah.
that was kind of funny. But you know what? They do funny things every day. They really do. I mean, it's I post videos all the time of like things my daughter says because it is so funny. Like it's back to God, I hate to say this because this is bad, but back when everybody thought Bill Cosby was good and he had kids say the darndest things, that show,
Mhm.
it was hilarious. And it is hilarious because they do say the darndest things.
They do, and here you are talking about the annoyance of children and Bill Cosby on my show.
No, I know, I know, I know, I know. But remember, there was a time when everybody really, really liked him back in the day.
Listen, I'm kidding with you because I mean, listen, everybody liked Bill Cosby. He sold us pudding. Most people only ate pudding because of Bill Cosby.
I
So,
mean, and
to think that
honestly,
Bill
the way
Cosby crushed up a pill and put it in pudding, that's what I think now. But that's
right.
right.
Right. It's so hard. I loved that show. And even as an adult, I used to watch reruns of the Cosby Show. And it's so funny the way he interacts with his kids. And even now, I have such a hard time envisioning that person. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You're the dad. You're like America's dad. so wild, right?
But it also goes to the world of Bob Saget, that was a very dirty comedian.
For sure.
However, and then ironically, the cleanest clean freak on Full House. So he's a dirty comedian, and then
Yeah.
he's like this squeaky clean dad who literally cleans the house 17 times a day. So
Yeah.
people would tell you, like, you see Danny Tanner. So my comedy, a lot of people that know me, my comedy goes to places because I've experienced a lot of things. So so one of my friends described me in the past as 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 Danny Tanner in the streets, Bob Saget in the sheets, is what he said. It's like the
That
people
I
that,
love that though. Yeah,
yeah,
no, no, no. I love it. I love it. I
because
love it.
and that's the thing though, is sometimes, your comedy goes to those places. Bob Saget was a very interesting comedian. Mine is based in, it's all real. It's all reality. I mean, I think about those days and envision those days after a show where someone comes up to me and says, "Okay, yeah, you told the story about your ex-girlfriend, but you embellished a little bit." And then one of my friends being next to me going, "No, he called me that day. That happened." Like that,
Yeah,
all that happened. So,
yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you. I think for songwriters, comedians, everything, I think everything is based on the real life
yeah.
and experience, you know? So
The
I
real,
have to see
real
it.
stuff, the stuff
The
that
real, real.
people think is like not, but it is. And and it's, I mean, sometimes you're like, do I have to pull it back because it is so real? But I don't know, you
I,
got it.
I have situations like that too that I overshare and I think to myself, maybe I should reel this in a little bit. Like not everybody's experienced the same things you are. And I'm like, it's kind of I always joke around like the cat's out of the bag and it's crawling around now. So let's just go with it. You know, it's out there. Let's just roll
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, like I've come up with stuff to the point where I'll look at my dad. My dad will be like, "Please don't don't tell that." And I'm like, "Dad, you got to wrap your head around the fact that when you walk around and you see people at work, that you're going to have to answer these questions. And I need you to let them know that I meant what I said." I really did.
That's funny you say that. I just caught my dad. You know how you can see on Facebook when people comment on something, even if you don't follow the page. I just saw my dad posted the two funniest things. And it's like he's a 70, I want to say 70, 30, 70-year-old. He posted the funniest things. Like somebody posted a weird comment about like a meme about like, what do you call a guy who has sex on the first night? And I'm literally the comments that pop up is my cousin sends it to me, a screenshot first. I didn't see it first.
Yeah.
It's my dad has written lucky. I'm like, Dad, everyone in your whole Facebook atmosphere is seeing your comment. Okay. You're really bringing out Saturday Night Fever for me right now, and I'm having a hard time.
Yeah. See, I mean, my my it's a family show, but it's like, I said something to my dad and I said it to my mom, and my mom laughed. She goes, "It's dirty, but it's funny, whatever." My dad was like, "Can you please not tell that on stage ever?" And I was like, "Dad, no, like I have to. It's part of
Yeah,
my
it's
life." I
funny.
said, "You just need to get to the point where you're okay answering questions about it, And they say, 'Hey, your son seems to talk about that a lot. What's up with that?' You got to be able to answer it, or say, 'I don't know.' Have them
Right,
write to me." But
right.
yeah, I think your dad's hilarious in writing that. I think that's funny.
Yeah, my girlfriends from high school. We have like a group chat. We keep in touch, four of us, and I sent it to them last night, the screenshot, and they were on the floor. They were like, "Your dad is so," because growing up with somebody's dad, like you think of them as somebody who would not say that,
Yeah.
and my dad, I was an only child, so all my friends always were over, and like my parents were like the ideal parents that all my friends wanted to be their parents, you know what I mean, type of parents.
Yeah.
So it's we every time my dad does something funny like that, we send it in the group chat and we're like, what, who is this person? Like, we don't know him.
Yeah. See, my mom, everybody they're like, your mom is like the sweetest person. But the thing is, my grandmother had a dirty sense of humor. My mom has a dirty sense of humor. My dad won't admit it, but he does, because he'll look at me. The older I got, the more like he would yell at me as a kid. But then the
Yeah,
older I got, he'll look at me, he'll shake his head, he'll laugh, and then he'll be like, "You're nuts." And I'm like, "But look, you're laughing. Like
yeah,
you're letting out that this
yeah.
is okay with you in your life." So you learn as your parents get older. But my grandmother, who lived to be almost 101, bless her heart in heaven,
Oh
um,
wow.
called her G Mama. So love that woman. She said at 92, I think it was, she was in her wheelchair and she said something wildly inappropriate, just off the wall. And we were at like the zoo, and my mom looked at her and she goes, "Ma, you can't say that." And my grandmother looked up and she goes, how old am I? My mom goes, like 91, 92. She goes, I've lived long enough to say what I want. And my mom looked down at her and whispered in her ear. She goes, Ma, you've been saying what you want your entire life.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to, she's like, well, now I can. And it's like, well, you always have. So, but so we all kind of live in that, you have a filter, but I think the most beautiful things in life is the people that know you for no, like if you're on the phone with someone and you got to hang up with them to call somebody else so that you can tell the full story. I
Yeah.
don't want to have those people in my life where it's like, hey, I
Me
can tell
either.
you 3/4, but I got to kind of like dumb it down and do these weird things with it. Then I can call my buddy and we can have this conversation. If I can't tell you who I am, so I'm very much like that. And we live in different worlds, right? You have kids and this and that. I am a single guy out there. So as a single guy
I
out
got wild stories though. Don't you worry. I got
there,
wild stories too.
no, I know that you do, but as a single man, when I'm dating, I'm just me. And
Yeah.
so, like, the first time somebody talks to me, I just let me be who I am because I say, if they don't like it, I want to know now, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm so offended that you joke like this. I'm so offended that you have a faith or whatever. I'd rather know now so that you don't waste my time. So people say, like, how are you so like that? Why aren't you like asking bland, dumb questions like, what's your favorite color? Do you like music? And I was like, because
Right.
I'm 37 and I don't want to waste my time. So
Are you on apps? Is that how it works?
I'm going to tell you something about apps. I have tried them. I have met one crazy woman on each one that I've been on. Every one
Oh,
that I've been on, I met a girl who stared at the wall for hours.
ooh.
That was terrifying. We'll talk about
We got to
that.
look at your profiles. We got to see what your interests are because we got to fix this. I feel like 'cause
Well,
I have a really good record with hooking my friends up with getting married.
okay.
Like every person I put on an app, they have found somebody and got married.
Okay.
I
I
I, I think I'm good at it. Like I really think I'm good at it.
You might be
But
really good at it, but I'm
I will
telling
tell you, apps weren't a thing when I was single. Like it wasn't like that big of a deal when I was single. And I always think about this, like what you're saying with the small talk. I always think like, God, like if I was single, like the exhaustion
oh yeah.
of the small talk, you know what I mean? And like you said, like either this is who I am, like
Yeah.
me now or don't. Like I'd almost rather just skip to let's just talk on the phone for a while, FaceTime, whatever, before I actually use my time to meet in person because I do not want to waste my time.
And that's me. And the thing about life that we live in today, I was just talking about this with my mom, with one of my buddies. I was like, most like not and I can't speak for men, and maybe it's the same, maybe it's just society now, but I can speak from my point of view. Women will talk for hours on the phone and then they'll never show up. It's like, oh, I want to meet you, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then they flake out, flake out, flake out. Like 99.9% of the women that said, hey, let's meet, let's do this,
Really?
didn't happen. And it's girls
Really?
in person that were like, here's my number, call me, I want to hang out with you. Two of the didn't happen. Then the apps of like, hey, let's do this. I literally, when a girl makes a plan with me on an app now, I will make plans beyond those plans because I know she's going to flake out. So I will
Really?
literally make a plan to go to a game the night that she's like, let's go grab some dinner because I know they're not going to show up. And I don't know if it's a societal thing now or just a lack of responsibility, but people that say, hey, let's hang out, let's go on a date. And then I told my buddy 2 days ago, I go, guarantee you this girl doesn't do it. And then I got a message last night and I shot him a message and I was like, dude, I told you. Like, it's sick, but like I can actually anticipate the people that waste your time on the phone that will never show up.
That's just so weird because I feel like society, whatever, I feel like women still are very, caught up in wanting to meet the guy, wanting to get married, all these things. So that's really shocking to me because I find that my single friends, most of them would love to be married and all those things. So it, it's such a catch 22 because I also have, married friends who they're grateful they're married, but they miss their single life. And it's not that they even want to go out and date. They just like the freedom of it, of being alone, to be honest with you. But it's just shocking that
Oh
I
yeah.
can see, I feel like it would go the opposite. Like I feel like as a woman, the guy wouldn't show up.
No. I think, and it's weird. It's like when you try to be a good guy and a chivalrous guy, I call it the Captain America complex. When I try to do the right thing, I
Yeah.
feel like women these days are repaying men for what men did in the past. Oh, men used to control us. Men used
Yeah.
to come to, just
They
when I
are.
Men used to do this, men used to do that. I'm going to do the one night stand. I'm not going to call you. I'm going to make you chase me. I'm going to flirt with your friend. And I look at this stuff and I'm going, I was never that guy though. I
Right.
never had the one night stand. I never like didn't call the woman if I told her I was going to call her. So, I mean, to me, I think being a good person in society, single now, you just meet all of these people. And I never like saying it. And I know people, well, that's why they're single. I don't like saying that because I don't wish bad on anybody. I just look at society and I'm like, what man are you trying to catch being angry at all of us? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then on the man side of it, I talked to some guys that like, the moment that their girlfriend's out the door, it's like, oh, I'm going to the bar. I'm gonna go get a girl. And I'm like, so I guess I don't understand. If you're a good person, you want to date, you have a lot to offer, you hear a lot of stuff from people, but you don't get a lot of stuff back. I will also tell you, you live in the South, and I think the South has better situation. I think the women in the South are kinder sometimes, and that's just my feeling. And I know women are going to look at this and hate me, but they already hate me up here. So I'm going to
You
say
know
this.
what though? But you bring up a good point. I mean, I do think the Southern values are a little different when it comes to like getting married and things like that, having family, living in the suburbs and all that. I think every major city, metro part of the city, you're going to find a lot more independence in women. Um, but it's funny. I just think people are carrying around so much trauma, male and female. You
Yeah.
know, of maybe it's from childhood, maybe it's from bad relationships. People are carrying around so much trauma and they're really not healing themselves at all. So I do think people are afraid of being hurt. They're afraid of, starting over. They're afraid of all these things. I mean, I think there's a lot of unhappy marriages out there for
Yep.
the same reasons of people staying in marriages because they're afraid to start over because of what you're saying. It's so bad out there in the dating world. It's so hard. And it's like you don't see any of your friends having success in dating. So it's like, why would you ever, leave a marriage to try to find, even if you're not in love or whatever. I mean, it's like it would be scary to go out there at this stage in someone's life. I, I just, it's so bizarre. Dating is so bizarre. It
It's
really is. To me, I just think it's like the most bizarre thing. It's like, why can't you just meet somebody and like vibe and like have a good thing and know right off the bat? Like, why does it have to be so complicated?
Well,
You know?
and that's the thing is a lot of the people they're like, oh, you travel all the time, you're out at events, you meet a ton of people. Yeah, unfortunately, sadly, going off of what you're saying, most of the people that flirt with me, want to give me their number or talk some kind of way, are married, engaged, or dating. And
Yeah.
and I
There's a
look at
lot of
those
unhappy people, I think.
and I look at them and I go, I feel terrible for this situation that you're in, but I'm not going to involve myself. I was a man whose marriage ended with a lot of reasons, but one of them being cheating, where I was like, I'm not going to be the guy when I knew the guy that it happened to me with. So, I think,
That's a story for another day, by the way. I'd like to hear it.
yeah, it's a very, yeah, she was fun. But to get back to the kind of levity of it all, the girl who used to stare at the wall, that was a fun one. And so she would do something really, really mean, right? And then because this goes back to my comedy, and people are like, they're like, tell us a story about it. And I'm like, well, a lot of it was scary. She kind of looked like the girl from The Ring when she would get angry because the hair would come down and she wouldn't move. I don't know if you've
Ooh.
ever experienced a man or a woman that can sit on the floor for an hour and not move.
Did she have mental illness? Like, was it like a,
I don't know what she had or didn't have because things would come out at different points, but
yeah.
she would do something very hurtful, and she would do something where I would say very nicely, like, hey, that hurt my feelings. I don't really appreciate that. Can we talk about that? And then she'd punish herself and go and stare at the wall. But it got scary. And then after months of it, she was like, oh, I can hear you the whole time. I just don't want to answer. So I was like, oh, so you're just trying to scare me. So then somebody asked me, they're like, tell us a joke about your last ex. And I said, a lot of this is X rated. I can't. But then I thought of it. I said, when she would stare at the wall for an hour, I said to pass the time, I would go get hula hoops and I'd play ring toss. So,
Oh, that's a good idea.
and then when she snapped out of it, I would tell her she owed me 3 goldfish because we were playing fair rules. But
I think that there was probably something wrong with
it
her,
was,
to be honest with you.
it was. But and the
But
thing
the fact that you stuck it out for a few months is
I
impressive.
I tried because there's people. What I realized with people that know that they're doing something wrong is
Yeah.
they'll do something right somewhere else that they think matters to you. So it's like, okay, and I said this to my buddy, I said, crazy people, people that are mean, whatever. I said, people that are crazy, that know they're crazy, will do something really, really nice somewhere else and say, if they focus on this, maybe they won't see the rest of it. Like, I'm going to do this thing that he really cares about. Like, he told me he never got that in a relationship. Nobody ever did that for him. So I'm going to do these really nice things to try
Yeah.
and take away from that. And you
Yeah.
realize over time the lesson of don't stare at the kitty. Like, you got to like pay attention to what's going on. You got to keep your eyes on the prize type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, somebody flashes a light in front of you, you got to remember what room you're in. So yeah, you learn a lot out there in dating. I find the comedy in it, like I said, not comedy and mental illness. I think people,
No, but I do think it would give you some great content for sure. I can see where this would give great content for a comedy show.
yeah, no, the hula hoop thing, people seem to appreciate that. Some of the young girls that heard it, they gave me a look, and I was like, if you knew what I went through for 10 months, I think you guys would have
I
laughed
can't believe you
more.
stayed in that for 10 months.
Well, it came in and out. And when it and I am the type of person where you'll get a second chance depending on what you did. I realized that in the past I didn't want to give any chances.
Yeah.
And this time I gave too many. So it was like this world of I don't give the second chance. And then I was like, okay, this is chance like 47. So you have to find that place in between. But then, when you walk away, you're like, God, I don't have the stress, I don't have the angst. Um, Anybody that can ruin Disney, which that happened to me twice, where somebody tried to ruin Disney, that takes a special human being to like fight with you in the middle of the Magic Kingdom. So
Happiest place on earth. Right.
right. So I think that, like we said, there's comedy but seriousness in it all. In the dating world, I find it interesting that you say, "Hey, I know a ton of people that want to be married, have kids, this and that." I meet a ton of people who are single, who are on dating apps that are like, "Oh, I'm just here for someone to tell me I'm pretty. I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. I'll date you, but I don't want to put a ring on because I just don't believe in it." So you kind of like meet people and you go, "Okay, so you really want to be alone or be in control. So that's probably why you're single, but why would you want to be on my first experience of being on an app after being married was a girl who said, I just go on the app so enough people will tell me I'm pretty and boost my ego, and then I don't answer." And I was like, that's kind of a waste of everybody's time. So
That's interesting. I think it's are you dating primarily up north?
yeah, I
I
don't
mean, and
want to.
listen, this is not me saying anything about any, but I just feel I do think that the independence and in women is probably a little bit more prevalent up there, but maybe you should try somebody in Orlando.
That's the thing, is I need to be, and I always say
I mean,
that
you're going to Orlando. It's
because
your big chance.
but that's the thing about me, is I said I was born in New York, but everybody knows my second home is Florida. The second hub of my show is Florida. And the country music, a lot of the food I eat, a lot of the values I have, so I tell people, I say I'm a northern boy that was somehow born in the South. That's like kind of because that's what I care about. And I feel like I get along so much easier with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we've talked a few times. I feel like if we were down at a game, totally fine. Hang out,
Yeah.
talk, whatever, chill,
Yeah.
relaxed. I
Yeah.
don't get in that like hustle and bustle. Like, I can go through it, but I don't like the like anxiety of people that are all trying to get nowhere fast. I like to just relax. And I think in the of all the cities and towns in Florida where I felt like nobody was trying to get anywhere was Deltona. And I'm not trying to knock Deltona, but it was so like there was nobody on the road. People were just hanging out at the gas station, and everybody's looking at everybody. And I felt like I was in this like saloon in an old like Western movie where everybody was about to grab from the hip and we're all just kind of looking at each other going, what's that guy about? And I was just
Yeah.
like, I just want to,
There's definitely some southern parts
yeah,
of Florida for sure that are, a little bit less developed, I would say. I would go so far to say the majority of your listeners up north have never even heard of Deltona.
probably not. No, I've told
You
them
know what I
about
mean? Like Daytona. But I mean, obviously I know what it is because I live here, but I have a feeling people are like, wait, what? What did he say?
Delta. Yeah, I'm like Daytona, because up here we
Deltona
have,
is close to Daytona for listeners. It's very close.
it's very small. It's not by a beach. But it's kind of like up here, there's Otsego, Owego, and Oswego. And I said, did someone just get really bored and lazy? And they made like all of the names almost the same. So when you hear Deltona, that's what people say from other parts of the country. They're like, oh, you mean Daytona? I'm like, no. And then there's Jacksonville, Tallahassee, there's Florida State. Pretty much
Speaking
it,
of,
you know. And
they
by the
won
way,
last night.
yeah, can we show some love to, are you a Gator or a Seminole?
I am a Florida Gator.
Okay.
Are you going to be all of a sudden a Seminole just because like they won last night? What are you, like a winner's circle kind of guy?
I know Mike Norvell, their head coach, very well. And I
Oh, well, congratulations to your friend. Look, I'm a Gator fan, but it's funny. When I was in high school, everybody you either went to University of Florida or you went to FSU or the community colleges in those markets. And then a small group of people, this is when UCF was really kind of on the rise, I feel like. Small group of people went to UCF, but other than that, you didn't really hear of the other schools much. But so I would say from my era, 40 and below, everyone is really kind of, you're either a Florida State fan or a Gator fan if you live here. And
yeah.
I mean, now obviously with people moving here, like my husband's an Alabama fan. It's like, what do you, I swear to God, he only
From
likes
here?
winners.
Is he from Jacksonville?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But he's one of those guys that like your whole family likes something and you're going to like somebody else. Like that's the guy. But it's funny. He was like a mega Bo Jackson fan as a kid, but Bo Jackson played for Auburn. So I've never quite understood the Alabama thing,
Yeah,
but we have an Alabama flag in front of our house.
that's ridiculous.
I mean, I know,
I'm
but I
surprised
will
people
tell
don't
you,
shoot
they
it.
are winners.
They are, but I'm very surprised that people don't shoot holes through your flag.
Well, it's so weird. We have somebody that just moved 2 doors down that's an Alabama fan. And then our next door neighbor's an Auburn fan.
Yeah, see that they'll be anywhere, and that's but Florida State. Here's the thing. So you being a Gator, I'll give you my sports analysis side of things. Florida played their best game all season
They haven't
against
had a
Florida
good
State.
season. Yeah.
Yeah, they played their best game all season. Anthony Richardson, I understand he had a bunch of incompletions at a certain point in like I think it was third quarter, but the reality of it all is that was a game, and it shouldn't have been a game because Florida State is ranked. Florida State is good. Florida State's done a lot of things. I think I said Florida
They
State
were favored by 14, I think.
when I believe I said weeks ago that they had a really good shot of being 9-3, and they are 9-3. So, Florida State to me and Florida, the game this year should have been widely on the side of Florida State. And Florida shouldn't have done much. The fact that this is a game, it was a seesaw, it was a one possession game for the majority of the game. That made it great. And I think Florida fans kind of knowing their pain and feeling their pain and understanding it. Yeah, they're going to a bowl game. They're 6-6. But I said they should play my Syracuse Orange and they should call it the Black and Blue Bowl because both of them are like getting to the bowl game, but barely. But in Florida State's case, Mike Norvell, great job at Memphis, 4 years there, covered him the whole time there and the whole time at Florida State. I told Florida State fans when he got hired, don't say anything, sit in your seat, let him coach, let him recruit. I believe, I can't promise you anything, but I feel very strongly that he's going to take care of you and you're going to be fine. And this is going to be your coach. And at the end of the game last night, one of the commentators said, Florida State, Mike Norvell got this win, best win of his career, da, da, da. This is your coach. And I was like, well, you're 3 years too late on that. Everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon now. But I think Florida is going to, I mean, listen, a lot of people thought Dan Mullen was the answer. He wasn't. Billy Napier now, could he be? We'll see. But Florida State and Florida, great rivalry. I've been there. I've been to Tallahassee for it. 90,000 people loved it. 9 a.m. they started tailgating. The game was at 3 or 4. They were still tailgating at 10 p.m. at night in the same place. Like everybody's leaving the stadium. There's no game going on anymore. And 3 hours later, people are standing outside tailgating. So I love the rivalry game. I think it's awesome. I thought that this was a really good game that Florida played. And though I leaned in my prediction on Florida State side and Mike Norvell, I really appreciate and respect him. And I know that they can run like crazy. I do give Florida a lot of credit. And ETN, I mean, for goodness sakes, I covered his brother, Travis, in Clemson, and I cover him now in Jacksonville. Just got to interview him a few weeks ago to start off, well, at the beginning of the season. So Travis and Trevor are insane. And I think Trevor is going to be great for the Gators. And I think that everybody that recruited Trevor is kind of pissed off right now. So Florida's got a lot of things to look up to.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I am such a fan that actually many years ago when Florida played Florida State in the Sugar Bowl for the national championship. I was at that game. So that 52-20 game, I was there. And yeah, my whole family, we've been Gator fans since I was a kid. I mean, we would travel around to all the games, and until my grandparents got too old to travel and go to the games. And then my dad worked for Coca-Cola my whole life. So he would always have, take customers. So my parents went to all the games growing up. I mean, it was a huge part of my childhood for sure. And still is. I mean, my parents won't let us come over during the game because I have kids. Now they do everything for my kids, but when that Gator game comes on, you're going to need to come pick these kids up because the Gator game. I mean, they're very serious fans. So
well, I think you described parenting perfectly of what you were saying in the beginning. I love my children, but during certain things,
they got to go.
And I think
they got to go.
That's South football. That is football in the South. When people will tell you, I go to church. I will go to church when like a lot of people won't go to church Saturday night. They got to go Sunday morning because Saturday night the Gators are playing, or Florida State's playing, or UCF's playing, or Bama. So I know down south that there is a very real, if you're going to come into my house, you got one shot. You shut up. You don't eat your chips loud. You don't do anything. You don't even go to the bathroom. You sit in this room with me for 4 hours. And if you can be like a ghost or you could be wallpaper, that's fine. But the moment you ask me a question in the middle of the game, you're never invited over here again. Like, people want dead silence.
My parents are so superstitious about they're superstitious about what they're wearing. They're superstitious about where they're seated in their living room.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody comes over to watch the game and they're there and we happen to lose the game and they've never been there before, then that might be a reason to not invite them again. You know what I mean? Like, they're very focused on what could have possibly gone wrong in their living room to cause the game to go down.
I love that. I'd be like, Cheryl, you can't come again, but you can drop off your bean dip next time.
For sure. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Just bring it to the door. The game's at 3. Bring it at 2:30. We'll wave, high five, but you have to go.
Yeah. You got to be gone by 3 o'clock though, because it's kickoff and we got all the things going on.
Because if Cheryl's still in the driveway, that could be a reason why they lost.
They could lose the coin toss.
She needs to get out of there. So, so we've talked about a little bit of everything today, a lot of different areas. I exposed a lot of things with dating on the internet. It's just but I'm an old school guy though. I want to bump it. I want to like go to the grocery store or bookstore. I just want to like bump into somebody that just so happened to be reading the same book. She says hello, I say hi, we talk about something, we laugh, we go and have a coffee. I'm not the type of person that utilizes a dating app because it's like grocery store shopping. And then people tell me, well, you're a good looking guy, but you didn't use the right picture angles and you didn't show yourself on a boat. You didn't show yourself at Disney. And why don't you have a picture with a camel? Like, I'm a real human being.
Again, that goes back to our last conversation. I can't take a picture on a mountain in activewear because I don't go on a mountain. Like,
right.
Exactly.
I'm going to tell you something, and you can say this, but as I do not believe, of all of the things that I've seen, there's 2 things I call BS on. And that's the women that, and I don't know why I don't know who said this years ago, like, hey, you know what? I'm really attracted to a woman that can catch a fish. Because almost every woman has a picture of her holding a fish, and I could care less. And then there are so many women, so many white women, and I'm not trying to put somebody, but I'm just saying, in the Middle East, there's so many white women pictures on a camel by the pyramids. I do not believe that most of these girls from California, or I just don't believe that they're on a camel in the, like, if I looked at all these women in New York, that are all these Caucasian women in New York, I would believe that 1 to 2 of the 167 of them were on a camel in the Middle East. But I do not believe they've all been on a camel. I believe
I got to figure out what you're looking at because I don't see that ever on Instagram. So I got to change my algorithm. But I will have to tell you, there is a massive desire to go to Dubai. And I think that Bravo is really helping that right now with the Housewives of Dubai situation. It's like, how are they so rich? We need to know, how are they so rich? How are they out there in the middle of nowhere? But I got to tell you, I don't see a lot of women on camels, so I have got to change some of my search because I
No,
don't see a lot of that.
it's on the dating apps around these camels. And
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I was like, shoot, I don't see that at all.
well, and this is
But I do see it is funny you say that about the fish. I swear women they want to show like I'm outdoorsy. I like to do outdoorsy things. Let me tell you something. I don't want to camp. I don't want to go outside. There's bugs there and dirt there, and I do not want to go fishing. Okay, but I do like to drink on boats.
yeah, well,
You know what I mean? Like
and
I
that,
like a good boat ride, but
yeah,
like I don't want to be out there for 5 hours fishing. What
right.
what else are we doing out there?
But this is how I really, really call BS on this. During COVID, where no one could travel down the street, let alone across the Atlantic Ocean, that's when all these camel pictures came up with these girls. I'm like, y'all got a nice filter, got a nice green screen. Somebody who's got a fake camel and a green screen made a lot of money during COVID because there's no
Listen,
way.
these apps can do a lot of work.
Right. And you see these girls out and about, and I'm going, no party you got on a camel in that in the Middle East. Nobody did that. Like, let's be real about it. I got a better chance of fighting a shark and trying to punch it in the eye in the middle of the ocean than you actually went out there. Because I've been in the ocean and I've seen the wildlife, not a shark. I've been very close to some massive stingrays before in the Gulf of Mexico. I was down in
Yeah.
Florida, and I don't know if you've experienced anything like this, but I was in the water, and of course, my buddy, he was like, I'm going to throw it. You're going to catch it in the water. I'm like, why don't you go in the water? He's like,
Yeah.
no. And he's taller than me. And he's like, oh, no, man, come on. So I go in the water, and I get this sixth sense. It's God to me, where I got something in my head, and God was like, hey, shuffle your feet. Like, pick your feet up. Don't put your feet down. Like, just be swimming. So I'm like hovering in the water. I got my feet up, and the ball's coming my way. And something told me, do not, unless you're shuffling, don't put your feet down. And I went to catch the football, and it was like a little Nerf ball. It went over my head, and it fell right here. And I turned around and swam to go get it. And right behind me was a mama stingray. She jumped up, and she was
No.
like this to me. She jumped up and went down like underneath me. So that like in my head going, hey, don't put your feet down. She must have been right under me.
No, I have not. And I will tell you, I don't love the ocean because of that. I the funniest story I have to tell you, or that I came in contact with, is more like a flipper kind of story, a dolphin. And this was very caged situation, we went swimming with dolphins once, and I had a friend of mine's mom who years ago worked at like SeaWorld or Marineland, one of those places. And she had told us that as a kid, told us that dolphins like can fall in love with their caretaker and pin them up and try to mate with them. Like so one time she got literally pinned against the wall and was like terrified because she could have drowned. So
Yeah.
anyway, let me tell you, we went swimming with these dolphins, and then that the coach guy was like, this one's acting out a little bit. Don't they think that they're doing the right thing if you try to pet him or reach for him, so don't do that. I'm gonna tell you, I have never been so scared in my life. I was like, what is he thinks he's doing something wrong? What? Well, I gotta get out of here. I was like, literally the whole group it's like a group excursion and everybody's having a good time, and then you see me swimming to the other side like I'm out. This is
Yeah.
not for me. This dolphin's gonna pin me up. It's like I'm not playing with wildlife. You know what I mean? There is nothing caged about that.
Well, maybe that was a mating thing between my ex and that dolphin, is if it stared at you for a long amount of time, then it meant that you were theirs.
You
And
should have
that's
took
why
you should have taken her out on the dolphin excursion and see what happened.
that dolphin would have been like, take her home.
Yeah, I was gonna say that dolphin would be like, hell no. All right. Like this is too much for me too.
Get her
Yeah.
out of the water. Yeah. Do you ever realize with somebody that I love to laugh and I love to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Do you ever realize when when you were out dating, whatnot, that like, and I don't have like weird pet peeves. I tell people I'm going to come up with them because I've heard some weird ones. So like, I'll ask people ridiculous questions like, do you like watermelon? Do you believe in Bigfoot? Because of funny things that have happened to me in the past. But I will say this, I love making people laugh. So if the laugh is terrifying, I can't get by that laugh. if it's a certain type of way. And I've had that experience and multiple times getting off a ride at Disney and they were so excited and I was happy they were excited. And then the laugh that they did, I looked like you did with the dolphin. I was like, somebody's got to get me out of this harness. Like I can't be next to this girl right now because people were like looking over and she's looking at them and she's looking at me and I want to be like, I'm a single rider. I was put with this lady.
Or like it's overdone up laughing. It's like they're over laughing, like
Like,
over.
yeah.
That actually happened to me recently. I can't say when because then somebody would know. But I was around some people recently, and somebody I'm not around a lot, and their laugh is just so awkward. Every time they would laugh, my husband and I would like kind of look at each other. We'd kind of go, and we would be laughing with them, but we'd kind of go, because it's just such a weird laugh.
I don't even want to like redo because I can hear it in my head, but it was like this high, low, it just did weird stuff. And I looked at her and I was like, are you okay? Did you choke? Like what happened in the midst of that laugh where it sounded like it was all right? And then we kind of lost each other for a minute. It was kind of like the roller coaster we were on, but the way she did it, I was just like, I had to fight my head going, don't ever do that again.
So that's clearly your pet peeve is laugh, is people's weird laughs.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I think my pet peeve is like cheating and lying, but no, I'm kidding. But
A lot of people's pet peeve.
but the laughing part of it, because I like to do that. I remember I was with my oldest niece and nephew a while back and I had dated someone and I kind of got like, I was like, I knew this is probably not going to work out. We only dated for like a few weeks, but we were watching a movie and she laughed and it was a serious movie. So there was nothing to laugh about. And she turned and she said, I don't know, she laughed about something that made no sense. But the way that she laughed, then she got up and went to the bathroom. We were all sitting on the couch. And I looked at my niece and my nephew and I was like, we need to get out of this house. And it was my house. But I was like, I'm going to lock her in here. We got to get out of this house. But like, there was something about, cause it was, and this one I'll try to do. God bless me if I could do it. But it sounded like the Joker, but she kind of looked at you and she goes, and I was like, it sounded like a ventriloquist dummy. And I looked at them and I looked around her while she was doing it. I was like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to, like, it's nighttime. And here she is thinking we're all going to sit and relax and enjoy this. We need to get out of this house.
And that was her normal laugh?
It was not ever like that pronounced. It was always weird. Like she's one of those people you'd like tell a joke and then 2 minutes later she'd start laughing uncontrollably, but when you told it she would stare at you.
Yeah, like she didn't process it.
Like she would just look dead at you and then you'd go on this, you'd be like eating a sandwich and she'd start laughing and she'd go, that was amazing. And I'm like, gosh, I really meet the greatest ones out there, don't I? And I feel like God made me meet these women so that I would have comedy for the rest of my life. But the reality of it all to me is like, I get to the point I'm never going to question God, but I look up at him sometimes and go, I think maybe I have enough material now. Like, I think I might have enough material.
Yeah. I've reached the quota. Like, I think my show's set. Like, if you just give me somebody good, I'll be good. Show will still be funny.
So yeah, I will tell you, be grateful you're not on the dating apps. People ask all the time. I will not publicly knock them. I will just say that every one that I tried that is like the normal ones that people tell you to try, they don't work. However, one of my closest friends, one of my best friends on the entire planet, he met his wife on Match. And you got to pay a ton of money to be on Match. You can't even like, if you match with somebody, you can't even talk to them.
So I would think that those are the serious ones.
Well, but you also are also looking at it like if I meet a bunch of crazy people, I spend $140. Like at what point, like my cousin met somebody he spent $300 to talk with something like just to meet people on eHarmony. So $300 in, he had no idea if it was going to work or not. And at that point, you're almost like you want to make it work because you just spent $300. I'm the type of person where I'm an old school guy. I want to like be sitting on a plane and you just so happen to sit next to me and we just so happen to have a conversation.
You're like the guy that's like a romantic comedy guy. Like the guy that's like, you think that like like you've got mail, like you think that like it's just going to meet somebody, which in theory is that is what happens on
Normal,
TV
yeah.
and on movies and stuff. Like, why wouldn't that be the case? And then also you have to think there's all these people out there and things on the internet and things like that. Like it will come. It will come if you know, just do you and it'll come. And then it's like, well, doing me is sitting on the couch watching Netflix. So it's definitely not going to come over here if I'm at home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I will tell you, I have both my friends that I'm have consider my track record to be solid for did match, and they both met somebody and got married.
That's
and
great.
catches too.
Yeah, that's great.
Like they were catches, like they were all catches.
Let me ask you a question. Was it match down in Florida?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Jacksonville specifically, actually.
Yeah. See, there's not, and that's the thing. I don't think I've spent enough time looking around at the scenery of Jacksonville because I'm at the game. But
Right.
I can imagine, but that's me though. Tan, little bit of a Southern accent at times, appreciates faith. Like and I say that to my mom all the time. I'm like, I am a sucker for a Southern belle, to the point where I worked with one when I was working at Disney. And it was like a no-brainer for me. She said something to me, and she could have literally said to me, "Can you pass the mustard?" And that was all I needed. And I was like, if there was a plethora of all of you down there at the same time, it would have been hard to choose. But with her being like that gorgeous girl, wonderful girl, can't say I'm not going to say anything bad about her. I mean, yeah, there's some funny stuff that happened, but she was young. When we met, I was like, I don't even know. I was like 20, 22, 23. She was 19. So we were not in that place. Right. But, you know, as far as just beautiful girl, kind girl, had enough of an accent, not thick, not bling, ding, ding, you know, not like that, but like the accent where it would come out. And when it did, I was just like, you know,
you were a sucker for it. Yeah. I mean, I think your listeners are I'm probably going to get some hate mail for the fact that I make it sound like only good girls live in Florida. And I'm not saying that at all. That is not what I'm saying. Just want to clarify that. But I will tell you, I've had some good luck with my friends on Match, and it happened to be in Jacksonville.
Well, all I'm going to say to you is, if there's so many great ones up north that aren't grizzled yet by the snow, I haven't met. So you're more right than you are wrong based on statistics. Okay. And we both talked about being numbers people.
Yeah.
So statistically, you know, that it's true. And New Yorkers, if you want to prove me wrong, prove me wrong. But I don't know. And I said that before I came home. I was like, came home from Florida. I landed and I was like, what is going on with Syracuse? Like, this is my city. We need to rep my city better, because down in Florida, it's just, and again, you talk about the numbers. You go down in Florida, you go on an app. There's a billion people within 2 miles of you. You come up to Syracuse, you can't, you go outside of 10, 15 miles, you got to go 200 miles to find, like, there's like 12 people in your vicinity on this app. You use that same one down in Orlando, it's like there's 200 people online now waiting to talk. Like,
I think you probably have climate issues too, I would assume, right? Because when it's really cold or snowing and all that, like, people probably aren't out that much.
Well, and there's a thing, I want to see if you know this. There's a thing that women created called handcuffing. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay. This makes me very sad for society.
Okay.
And I think I was a victim of it at one point, but handcuffing in fantasy football, it's great. When you handcuff in fantasy football, it means that when James Robinson was on the Jaguars, you would get Travis Etienne and get James Robinson as your handcuff, because he was like your safety net. Like, if they both play, then I got them both.
Okay.
Handcuffing and dating. And here's me thinking, was I just a victim of something that somebody tried to make up? No, I heard it on Sirius XM years later. What it is a woman, when she sees that it's starting to get colder outside around October, November up here, she will find a man and she will handcuff him. So if she's dating him, she'll stay with him, whether or not she really wants to be. And if she's not dating anybody, she'll find someone good enough to handcuff. And then once it starts getting better in like March, April, she'll let him go and she can go back outside.
It's funny though. I've seen memes about this from the opposite side of things, like on Instagram, about like guys saying it's winter season. Like this is where you guys all cozy up, and then you let the girl go right before the summer because then you're gonna go out. So I've seen it on the opposite side of it. I didn't know it was called handcuffing,
Yeah.
but I definitely am aware of that being a thing that people say they want to do. But I mean, I always dated to like date to keep, you know what I mean? I was never like a casual dater.
Yeah.
So even when obviously before I was married, but even at my most single times, like I wasn't a casual dater,
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of foreign concept to me a little bit to not fall in love with whoever you're with. I'm probably like one of your crazy ex-girlfriends, to be honest with you. I'm probably handcuffing people for life. But my husband probably would say that. But it's funny that people even want to like date somebody briefly in the holidays. I mean, then you got to buy gifts for people.
And
Let's talk about the downfalls of that.
there's a rule now that I instituted because at the time we're talking here at the end of November, I have a rule. My rule is the 90-day rule. Now that I'm saying it out loud, somebody might see this because here's the thing that's really weird. The girls that flake out, say they want to go on a date and then we never go out on a date, but they talked to me for God knows how long or whatever. They all go onto my Instagram. And my one buddy said to me, he goes, when you date, he goes, you end up with fans. People, they don't want to date you, but they want to know what you're doing and check up on you. I go, I don't need fans like that. That's ridiculous.
Right.
And it's crazy and it's creepy. But so I guess when I'm saying this would be to the fans. So shout out to you all. But and now I lost my train of thought. But we were talking about handcuffing and yeah, I did. I totally lost my train. So
Well, listen, I have a theory about women that don't go out on a date with you. They just hit me.
Yeah.
I think that they are talking to several people all at once, right? Having these long conversations, whatever. And I think that before they go on the date with you, they've gone out with somebody else, maybe the night before, whatever. And then they really like that person. Because in general, I do think it's very common, not so much for men, but for women to, when they feel that feeling, they like somebody, to kind of focus on it a little bit more. And whereas I think men typically they could still like, let's try out somebody else the next day too. Let's, I liked her. I'll go out with her again, but I'm going to try out somebody else. I think when women go out with somebody, probably more often than not, that they really connect with now in person too, they're like, oh, when's he going to call me? Like, are we going to go out tomorrow? And then they just don't call. So I just know, like, I do have friends that are on the dating apps now, and they're talking to a ton of people. Like, I have one friend that's like, I want to come over. Let's go through my dating app so we can swipe or not. And it's fun for me because I'm like, yeah, I'll help you. But like, you really have that many people on the dating app that you need my help?
Well, that's the thing, and it's different. And there's some apps where like the guy has to pay, the girl doesn't. So the girl can see everything, but the guy can't see anything. And Bumble, bless your heart to the creators of Bumble, I think women already have all the power. So the fact that Bumble gives them all the power is ridiculous. And there's no one where the men have the power because, oh yeah, well, it's ridiculous. But see, I'm a different type of guy in the sense of, like my mom says, she goes, you've always had more emotion. You've been caring. Like I can't talk to a girl and be interested in her. And like, okay, if I'm talking to a bunch of people, right? Like this happened years and years ago. When I was in college, I was talking to two girls and I was single and I went on dates with this girl. I went on dates with this girl. When it started to get serious and I realized they both had feelings for me, I was upfront with them and said, hey, I am dating around. And I'm not dating a lot of people, but I'm dating you and I'm kind of seeing somebody else at the same time. I'm not your boyfriend, but I want you to know, because if this is getting serious for you, then we have to have a conversation about that. And I was very open and honest about that in that situation because I can't toy with people's feelings. But it's, I don't know. I mean, I've always been a more emotionally in tune person, I guess. So I can't think of it like a typical guy because I get what you're saying totally, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't be the guy that's like, oh yeah, I'll respond to her tomorrow or 7 months from now. Like that's just not who I am.
The worst. It's the worst.
Yeah.
It is the worst.
But
I'm not any listeners that you have that are men, they should be like you. And I know they say nice guys finish last and all that, but they should be like you. It is the worst when a woman has to wait on a guy to text her back or whatever. Like, and I'm such a believer in like there's that saying, nobody is too busy. Nobody is too busy to take 2 seconds, even to say, I'm super busy. can't get back to you yet, but I'm going to call you later, or I'll text you tomorrow, or work is crazy, or whatever is going on. I think people are a lot more understanding than people give them credit for.
Oh, yeah.
And the ghosting stuff that's going on with
Yep.
the just not responding stuff, it's rude. You know what I mean? Like, it's rude.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like you're just meeting the wrong women, because it sounds like you're a catch. Nice guys, I don't know why they finish last. They should not finish last. They should finish first. And I don't know what trauma or what issues women are dealing with that they don't want the nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with women that they think that they have to be chasing somebody, or that they have to be like, you know, and nothing against Disney, but I do think this whole like Prince Charming is going to sweep in and, on his white horse and save you and all these things. I think women have been ruined with this theory of how things happen. And when it doesn't play out that way, they're looking for the next person.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though. Women don't want the prince anymore. They want Jafar. Like, they want the guy who is evil, who looks in the eye, tells him he's evil, he's materialistic, and they want
Right.
to fix him. They want to change him.
They do. They
You
do.
know?
But they also want that guy. And then they want him to realize he made a mistake and come back on the white horse.
And that's the thing, is some of us show up on the white horse and you
That's,
go,
yes.
nah, it's not real. And then the other guy shows up on a turtle smoking something. And then they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get him to stop smoking. I'm gonna turn that turtle into a horse. He's gonna fall in love with me. And I'm like, no, he's gonna continue to be an idiot. Like, that's, it's the, I don't know why. And I said that to one of my buddies. I go, I think the biggest problem that I have in dating is that I fixed myself without needing a woman to fix me. Like, I learned where I could have gotten better, and I learn every day, but I didn't wait for a woman to go, hey, you're a jerk, and that's, and I wasn't raised that way. If I treated women poorly, my mother would beat my butt.
But you know what? I know a lot of guys that weren't raised that way. And I know some guys, it's like they're the black sheep of their family. It's like, what, why are you this way? I know your parents didn't raise you this way, or your family's normal, and everybody's always thinks, and yet you are living this player lifestyle forever. It seems like it's like the Peter Pan syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It is very real.
Mm-hmm.
These men that just do not want to grow up. And listen, do you, boo? Like, who cares? You do you, but it is a very real thing. But I'm telling you right now, women are so traumatized and so afraid that somebody is out to hurt them, that even if you do show up as the nice guy, I'm telling you, they're not believing you. Like, they do not believe that you are really going to be the nice guy. They think that you are setting them up for failure. And sometimes I think that makes people run, because they're like, they don't want to get hurt.
Well, and that's the thing too, is the people that don't want to get hurt sometimes hurt other people the most.
Oh, I know that's true from my past. I mean, not me hurting people, but I know that, I know that's true. I had somebody in my past that I feel like, the person that I loved the most, did me the worst, probably. But, I think, like you said, you healed yourself. You didn't need a woman. I think that what's important is for people to realize in that situation is that if you are a woman feeling that way, that it's not always about you. And that's like one of the biggest things I've had to learn over the years, is it's not always about me. And it's not that they're going out there to hurt me or to do something to me. It's that they don't like themselves. They're running from who they are. They're not really running from me. And yes, maybe one day they would come back into my life had I stayed single or something like that, and say the whole, I made a mistake and blah, blah, blah. But at that point, are you really going to wait around for somebody to do that? No. Your worth is more than that,
Yeah. There's a reason why there's a song called Deuces. So, before.
Well, there's a reason there's a lot of breakup songs.
Yeah, there is. And you know what? And you think about that, you're like, you know what? Why am I complaining about what I've been through? Obviously, all of these singers have been through it too. But, I think you learn a lot when you go through it. But I think the hard part for me is people people saying they want the dream, right? But then, like you said, when you try to give it to them, they don't believe it. But those people that are so hurt, somebody put this out a long time ago, and I post it all the time. You've probably seen it if people have been on the Instagram, but I put out hurt people. And I can't tell you that any one of my crazy stories didn't come from a woman who was hurt, and you go out for them and you feel for them, but there's a line of like, I feel bad for you and I'm going to help you through this. And you have punched me in the face way too many times with this. I can't help you anymore. Like, I mean, so when someone's a loose cannon and they start firing at you, you catch it, put it down, catch it, put it down, but it's exhausting. And it's also exhausting to date. And I tell people, I call it mindless information. I'll look at a woman and be like, is there any point of me being on, like, if I'm on the phone, I'm like, are we actually going on this date or not? Because if you're telling me about your this, that, and whatever, and your brother, this is mindless information if I'm not going to get anything from that. And some people, like, some people might think that is rude, but I don't. You and I know what it's like to be business people, marketing people. We know what it's like to live in a world where you are constantly, you are your brand. So I don't believe in people wasting my time. And if you waste my time, you don't get a second chance to waste my time. Like I'm very big on time wait. That is a pet peeve. If you are on the phone with me for 4 hours and it's business, we better be doing business. If you're on the phone with me for 4 hours and it's dating, this better not be like, oh yeah, I forgot my grandmother died, can't make it. I don't believe in time wasters at all.
At a young age, I remember saying to a guy that I ended up dating for a long time, but I remember saying to him, like, look, are you going to date me or not? Because one of your friends over here is like trying to holler, and are you wanting to date? Because clearly this is where I want to go. But if you don't want to go that direction, then I'm going to have to move on here, because I don't like to waste my time either.
Yeah.
And I do not like situations that are not clear.
Yeah.
Be clear, be straight to the point. Say what you want, say who you want, say all those things. Like clarity is everything, and you've got to pick a lane. And I really wish more people would understand that.
And going off of what you said with that, I tell people all the time, maybe is almost as bad as no. Because maybe I call it an elongated no. It's just a no that's taken a really long time to get there. You talk about getting in the lane. If this is the yes lane and this is the no lane, maybe it's like this. It's trying to turn, it's trying to get into the lane, and it's eventually going to get into the no lane, but it makes you think it's because it kind of weaves to the yes lane.
There's a song called Brandy recorded it back in the probably late 90s or early 2000s. And then I think Mark Wills, like the country singer, recorded it, but almost doesn't count.
Yeah. Amen.
Literally almost does not count. Either you did it or you didn't do it. And I still stand by that, like, and people, it's funny, people will come back in your life, and especially with all your stories about like exes and stuff. I'm sure you can attest to this, but people will come back in your life with this whole, I didn't see it that way. We talked about this last time, or I'm sorry, it was like this, or you really were a great guy, or all this. And it's like, I almost, really went for this and I should have, or whatever, shoulda, coulda, woulda, and almost does not count.
No.
What I mean? It just doesn't.
And that's the thing, is it's like the people that came back, two of them, it was over a decade, both married, both either step parents or biological parents. And I'm sitting here going, okay, on some guy's mind, maybe I'd be like, oh yeah. On my mind, I'm going, I want to call your husband and be like, dude, I don't know if she did this with anybody else, but you kind of need to, like, I'm going to let you know that when you're sleeping in bed at night, I'm getting a message, and that's not fair to you. See, some going, oh, well, I'm not the one cheating, so who cares? No, I'm the type of guy going, yeah, okay, 11 years ago, you didn't make the right decision. Well, now you have children, you have a family, and you made a different decision in your life. And I'm not here to boost your ego because maybe he made you feel some kind of way. I'm not here for that. If you wanted me back,
a lot of people need ego boost. And that you called it. A lot of people are just looking for an ego boost.
Oh yeah. So we've talked about a lot of stuff in this edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with Andrea Smith. We've gotten into a lot of things. We've unpacked a lot of things. We've called a lot of y'all out. So with that being said, Andrea, let's play rapid fire to round things out here. Once again, you get 3, I get 3, and we can go wherever we want to go with this.
You go with your 3 first.
All right. My first one for you. If you had to pick one song to run out of a tunnel, if you were coming out of the tunnel in Gainesville for the Florida Gators, what's the one song that people need to hear that would get you most amped up?
This is really hard because I'm a music person, and I make playlists nonstop. I've got like hundreds of playlists on my Spotify. I cannot even come up with one, but the first one that comes to mind, and you guys are gonna laugh at this. I swear you're gonna laugh. Because it was part of the college football entrance like 2 years ago, was the Taylor Swift "Are You Ready for It" song.
Yeah.
But I might actually go back to like my more EDM roots a little bit, and with like the bingo players, like "Cry a Little." I really like that song. We say it's gonna be at my funeral, my best friend and I do, because it's such a good song. But anyway, okay, next.
All right, next one here. I like it. All right, let's see here. What's the best piece of advice you didn't take when someone gave it to you, but that you use now?
Oh God, that's a tough one. Nothing good happens after midnight.
Okay.
It's
True.
true.
That
It's
is
true.
true. Okay. If you were on death row, give me your breakfast meal, your lunch meal, and your dinner meal that you would have.
This is also hard because I'm a dieter and I don't eat a lot of like normal food because of I feel like I've been on a diet since I was
But
like
you're on
12.
death
But
row. You're on
okay,
death
I'm
row.
on death row. I'm gonna die tomorrow. Okay, I gotta think about this. Okay,
This is the
breakfast,
ribs and the
pancakes.
cornbread. Yeah.
Okay, pancakes
Yeah.
for sure. Heavy syrup for sure. Lunch, I would probably do. This is a good one, I feel like. So, you know, when you're a kid and you have like lasagna or spaghetti, and then the next morning it's cold in the refrigerator?
Yeah.
So good cold. Probably that.
Okay.
And then I'd have to say, I probably, because I eat a lot of sushi all the time anyway, so I probably wouldn't go with that. But I probably would do another Italian dish because I don't eat a lot of that. Because it's just obvious, you know, the stupid carb rules, stupid. But you know, in my head, I don't do a lot of pasta stuff, so I probably would do that. And I would probably do it cold because I love leftover cold
Yeah.
pasta. So good.
Something about like baked ziti when it's cold. It's so good.
So
And it's
good.
coming from an Italian, and my mom's probably cold, but I don't
So
know.
good. It's like cold pizza. So good.
But I tell people if your pizza is good cold, then it's good pizza.
For
Because if
sure.
it's a lot of pizza can taste okay hot, but if it tastes really good cold and it still holds like its flavors, then you know that it's good. Because
Something
I
about pasta sauce cold is good.
yeah, there's some. I used to do the breadsticks in the cold pasta sauce, and I liked it. So
Yeah. Oh,
I can
yeah.
understand where you're coming from. All right, what are your three for me?
Okay, on that same topic, are you a white sauce or a red sauce guy
Oh my god! Well,
for pasta?
being Italian and Hispanic, red sauce is the answer for both. So I would say definitely a red sauce guy. Make my homemade marinara sauce, so it's got to be.
Okay, I'm a red
Yeah.
sauce too. I'm not really white. Let me think here. Well, we already know you like Florida State more than Florida. All right, what are you picking for the score tomorrow for the Ravens and the Jags?
Oh boy. 23-10 Jaguars.
I like it. I
And it's
like it.
because the defense is showing up and Lamar Jackson has already proven that he struggles sometimes. That offense really struggled in a game I didn't think they would. So I feel like if Jacksonville can get out early, attack early, hit
Yeah.
early, I think there's going to be something to be said about that.
Lamar Jackson played at Boynton Beach High School, and my condo when I lived in Boynton Beach was backed up to the high school. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool. Like that's when he was in high school. But last one. Okay, so we talked about the Jags, the Ravens. We talked about your pasta sauce. Dogs or cats?
No, that's so easy. My dog. I mean, I
What kind of
cats.
dog is it?
So she's a Havanese. She's a cute.
Okay, super cute.
So yeah, and she can actually, because they were bred to be circus dogs, so
Oh,
she can actually dance and stay up on her back feet, and she can literally stay up on her back paws and walk backward. It's insane.
you got
But
a dance partner. You don't need a woman. You got a dance partner.
yeah,
You're good.
well, I think her, after seeing the people I dated, now if somebody comes to the house, she just goes. It's almost like she looks at me like, "Daddy, they're gonna be gone in a week, and we're gonna be watching TV again, and that's cool." So
Yeah, she sounds like she's gonna have to. Yeah, exactly. Let's get them out of here. My
yeah,
dog hates my husband still, and we've been married a long time. So there's something about these little dogs. They got their little own mind. So
they know they're people. That's
they
all it
do.
is.
That's
So
it.
yeah,
That's it.
dogs. I don't want to say that I severely dislike cats because I don't. I think they hate me because I'm a dog lover. So there's a few cats that like me. There's like four, and I love those four. And one of them lives in Florida. Shout out Marissa, I call him my big bro. His cat doesn't sit with anybody and will sit with me. So
Oh,
but
How
I'm a
about
dog person. So with that being said, Andrea Smith here with us, marketing as well as fitness and overall positivity and goodness, has been many years out there doing an incredible job at being her own brand. And we appreciate her being here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios for this special. Andrea, as always, this, you know what, I as we were talking, I thought to myself, when I listen to a talk show, whether I'm watching it or listening to a talk show, it's when they're having those conversations where you're hanging on and we got into a lot of dating stuff and different things. And I think we're finding a little groove here. So this is something I want to go back and listen to. So thank you for that today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we gotta talk about the positive stuff next time, because we totally went off on your dating life this time. So, but I'm here to help anytime you need. I am here to help with your dating life anytime.
The positive to my dating life is it will make me a lot of money on Netflix.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. I like it.
And on a
Glass half
positive
full.
note. So with that being said, Andrea, thank you.
Bye.